Hey everyone, this is Nick. I want to try to make this chart that I saw over on The Economist from Instagram. I want to try to make this chart inside of PowerPoint. There are some really interesting things here that I thought would be kind of cool to figure out how to work around in PowerPoint. And at the end of this, I don't know if the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. This is going to be a really long video. I'm going to try to timestamp it below. So go ahead and skip to the parts that you might want to see. We've made arrow charts before. They're kind of like a dumbbell dot plot. So we know this is going to be a scatter plot as the base, an XY scatter chart. But you can see there are some interesting features here. There's that red to blue arrow when it crosses the 7-point threshold line. There's that embedded 7-point line right there. And it's perfectly aligned with that x-axis, the horizontal axis at the top. So I might have to embed a custom axis here into our chart. There's going to be a few different series and probably some different Excel formulas behind the scenes that we use to sort of designate which of those arrow series we're sort of going to use in the chart. So go ahead and either push stop, push pause, play, all the things on this video. I look forward to seeing who can actually make it to the end of this video. If you do, let me know in the comments below. You will get a prize. Okay. I'm going to start with my blank slide. In PowerPoint, we're going to insert a chart. So I'm going to go to the chart tab here. We're going to insert XY scatter. I love PowerPoint when you insert charts because it gives you this dummy data. It shows you how the data are supposed to be set up. I already have my 20 and 15 data right here along with my country data. So I'm going to copy that, Control C in an Excel file, and I'm just going to go ahead and Control V to paste that over here. You can see it does some things in the chart, but we don't really care about that because we're going to rework some of this. Now I know that behind the scenes, in order to make an arrow chart or a dumbbell chart, I usually do that by calculating the difference between my pre and post, or my 2 points that I have. So in this case, it's between 2025 and 2015. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and call this difference. The difference, and actually I'm going to call this red difference because this is going to be the base of my chart. These are going to be the red arrows. So this difference is just equals and then 2025 minus 2015 data, and that goes right down the row. Now there's another thing that you'll notice here is that with these charts inside of PowerPoint or embedded in Excel, they automatically come with that dynamic table. So things will automatically update as you add new rows or columns to the spreadsheet. I don't necessarily want that because I'm going to have to do a lot of manual back and forth in terms of pointing to different data series and adding them manually into the chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little Excel pop-up window. That's going to open the full Excel window here. I can maximize it here. You know it's the full window because I got the whole access to the ribbon right up here, all the features that I normally have in Excel. And you can see this table design tab is activated, which means we're in a table. So I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go to that table design tab and I'm going to click on convert to range. This gets rid of the dynamic table and converts this to a cell range. Okay, perfect. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Now, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to repoint those, the two sets of dots here, the blue and the orange dots for the 2015 and 2025 data. We're going to have to repoint those to the appropriate cells. So I'm going to go ahead and say select data with my chart selected there. The data source window pops up and then so does this. And 2015, I'm going to go ahead and say edit. Actually, one more thing I forgot. In a XY scatter plot, we need the Y values. So the 2015 and 2025 values, those are going to be my X values. I need a set of Y values, which are essentially just a sequentially numbered list for my horizontal lines throughout the chart. So I'm going to actually cancel this, and I'm going to add a new series right here. I'm going to call this Y values. And we're just going to have this. I'm going to say 10, 9, and then we're just going to copy this down. So it's 10, 9 all the way to 1. Okay, so I'm just going to bold that, make sure that looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and say select data because my chart is already selected. And now let's go ahead and edit the 2015 and 2025 sources so that they're perfect. So 2015, edit. The name is already set there to 2015. My X values, I need to point there in column B. And then my Y values, I'm going to pull from my Y value column. We're going to use this column E, a lot in our work today for this chart. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do the same thing for 2025. Make sure that those are pointing to the right section right there. My Y values, perfect. And we'll click OK. The red difference, it already added that because it was kind of an automatic thing. We don't need this. I'm going to delete it. So I'm just going to say remove, and I'm going to say OK. Now let's scroll over here to get rid of this window. I don't know why PowerPoint charts always do that. They always open up with a huge Excel window there, pop up that spans the whole screen. Okay, so now things are looking a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and do some manual updates here to my axis, my y-axis there. I'm gonna actually put the maximum at 10.3 and the minimum, we're gonna go at 0. Oops, undo. Something went a little bit haywire here. I'm going to bring back my vertical axis as well. So I want this to start at 10.3 at the top as my maximum value. And that's going to be so that our arrows, once we get to that point in the chart, our arrows are fully shown in the chart. 0 will be my minimum right there. So that looks nice. You can see my horizontal axis is also kind of, oh, it actually just went back there. So, but I'm going to actually just keep this at 0. We'll hard code it at 0 for now. And my maximum will be 25. And then, oh, I'm going to go back to my vertical axis and make sure the major units are set to 1, because now you can see where those Y values come from, 1 all the way up to 10. Now, here's my sets of arrows. Now, here's my sets of 2 dumbbells. Now, we're going to actually get rid of those dots, but what we first need to do is create the arrows. This is going to be our first series of arrows, which is just going to be all of the arrows from my example chart here. They're always going to be, it's just going to be a full set of arrows, but they're all going to be red. So this is going to be kind of like the bottom layer of my chart right here. So in order to do this, what we need to do is we're going to use that difference column that we calculated. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the 2015 arrows. We're going to add error bars from the Skittle. And if I click that button right here, you can see, oops, not sure why. Okay, there, it checks there. So now all my error bars get added to those dots. I don't need the Y errors. Those are the vertical errors. So I'm going to delete those. And then I'm going to click on the horizontal or the X error bars. And over in the format error bar pane, I'm going to actually just add the plus, and I'm going to say no cap. So the direction is set to plus, the end style is set to no cap, and the error amount I'm going to set to custom. And then I'm going to click on specify all. When I do that, the window pops up and it asks me, where do I want to pull the values for those error bars? And this is where we have calculated my red difference, my difference column here in column D. So for the positive value, I'm going to go ahead and say D2 through D11, push enter, and even the negative value, I'm going to do the same thing. Sometimes this requires just a little bit of playing back and forth to see which actually work, but you can see now, if I close out of this window, my error bars have spanned now between those 2 points, those 2 data points that we have. Now what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to get rid of my little Skittle menu there. I'm going to go ahead and update, format these error bars so that they look like arrows. So we're going to go over here to the paint bucket, and I'm going to make them really red. And then maybe the width, I'm going to set to, let's say 4 points here. And then under begin arrow type, I'm going to say circle, the oval, because that's what it looked like in my chart. And on the end arrow type, I'm going to say arrow. Now you can see that we've got our arrows, but you can see those orange and blue data markers are still there in the chart. So we want to go ahead and make sure that they're gone. We don't want to delete them completely. We just want to set them to basically so that there's no markers there. So I'm going to go ahead and select one of the series there. And then under the paint bucket on the format data series menu, we will go ahead and say, oops, let's see, where did that go? Where did my marker go? Oh, we need to go back and maybe highlight this series. I'm going to highlight this series. Under this marker option here, under Format Data Series, we're going to say marker option none. I'm going to do that for this one as well, for the 2025 and 2015 one. And now we have this really nice start of the arrow chart. Okay. Now, how do we deal with that 7-point cut right here, that 7-point cut where we're going to need to have everything below 7 points turn blue? I'm going to add a new series of data to my data source. So let's go ahead and click on my chart. We're going to go ahead and update this. I'm going to say edit data, and I'm going to say edit data in Excel because I want the full range of capabilities from Excel here. So what we're going to call this, I'm actually going to update first I'm going to update the series here. I'm going to call this red 2015 and red 2025, okay? So that we know those are my red arrows. Right here, I'm going to add a new set of arrows, and I'm going to call it purple. I made a blog post that kind of goes along with this, and I called this the purple series, okay? So I'm just going to say this is my purple, and then I'm going to say purple diff, because we have to calculate a difference for that one too. So what this is going to say, we're going to do an if formula here. We're going to say if, let's see, if my 2015 value is if my 2015 value is greater than 7, and actually I think I want this to be an and. I want to do two things, because I want, if the 2025 value is greater than 7 and the 2025 value is less than or equal to 7, then I want this to be, then I want it to sort of return the value, then I want it to return the value of 7, because we're going to start the arrow at that 7 cut point. So this will make sense, I think, when I do this. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to say if, open the parenthesis, and open the parenthesis, if my value in B here, if my 2015 value is greater than 7, and my value in C there is less than or equal to 7, then I want it to return a value of 7. And if not, then I want it to return an error message. So that's going to be NA and then open, close the parenthesis. That will be the error. The chart then will treat it as a blank cell, not 0. So that's what we want. So I'm going to put another set of parentheses there and another parenthesis there, and then I'm going to push enter and see what happens. Oh, I got an error. Let's see. I probably put in maybe too many parentheses. Let's see. What did I do here? Oh, I see. This needs to be, the and formula needs to be, the parenthesis needs to be there for the and formula. So let's look at this again. I think this is good. So if and those things, B2 and C2, B2 is greater than 7, C2 is less than or equal to 7, then it's going to return a value of 7. If not, it's going to return an error value. Let's push enter, and there we go. That's perfect. So that's exactly what we wanted. I'm going to copy this down the row, and we'll see how many of these we get. Yep. So we have this middle section here from Canada all the way down to Poland. Those were the ones that spanned across the chart. And so here for the difference, I'm actually just going to calculate the difference between the value in cell G and the value in the 2025 column. So we're going to go ahead and say equals this cell right here, G2 minus C2, okay? And that's going to give me another error message, and we're going to do this, and then this will give me, this middle section here is going to give me my arrow. So now what we need to do is we need to add this series to the chart. So I'm going to close out of this, and we're going to do this from scratch here. So select your chart, select data. We're going to add a series. We're going to add a series here, click on add, and then the series name, I want it to be purple. The X values, I want it to be G2 through G11. My Y values are always going to be pulling from the Y value column here in E. Push enter, and then I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. See if that happens. I think that worked. So now what we're going to do is say, okay, I'm going to close out of this. And now you don't see any any markers here, or data markers, but that's because we've already set some of those markers to no fill or to no marker. So if you want to see what's in the chart, you can go to the Format Chart Area menu and click on this little Chart Options tab. It gives you a drop-down menu of all the different elements that you have in your chart. And you can see right here, series purple. I have purple there. So if I click it, it's going to highlight those markers right there. Now, in order to do these markers, I just want to add another set of error bars. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the skittle. I'm going to add error bars again. Now, we don't need those Y error bars, so I'm going to delete those. And you can kind of see the X error bars, but they're really faint. So if you can't highlight them, I recommend going over to that chart options menu and seeing purple X error bars. I'm going to go ahead and select them so that they are selected. Under the formatting options here, then we're going to say minus. I'm going to say no cap. And from custom, we're going to say specify value. And then I'm just going to pull those from the difference, the purple difference cells right here for my positive values and I guess my negative values. I think you probably only need to really do the negative values, but you might as well just do both. And I'm going to say, okay. And now you can see that they're part of my chart right there. And now I'm just going to format them in the exact same way as I did the arrows with a few little tweaks. I'm going to make them blue, and I'm not going to have a starting endpoint with that little ball or that oval shape. So let's go ahead here. I'm going to turn this blue, and then I'm going to say 4 points for the width. And then the begin arrow type, I'm going to keep at that little line because we want that to just be the cut point of the 7-point threshold. The end arrow type, I'm going to say arrow. And now you can see that I have that little span. So that's pretty cool. So now you're starting to see how this is taking shape. We need to add one more series, and it's going to be the set of blue arrows in the end of this chart, because you can see there's some arrows for which they're always blue because both of the 2015 and 2025 values were always below that 7-point threshold. So let's go ahead and add a new series, and we're going to have to do some of those if and formulas yet again. So let's go ahead and open the data in Excel. Data in Excel right here. Let's go ahead and add my series here. I'm going to say blue 2015, blue 2025, and then the blue difference. We need a blue difference column there too. Okay, so if the value in, let's say if the value in 2015 is less than or equal to 7, then I want it to return the value that's in B. And if not, I want it to return an error. So let's go ahead and try this. If I don't know if we need an and for this, but let's just try this right now, and then we might go back if we need it to be both. Or I guess, I don't know, we might as well do both. So let's just do if and open the parenthesis. If 2015 is less than or equal to 7, and C, the value in C, the 2025 value, is less than or equal to 7, I'm going to close the parenthesis there for and. Then I want it to return the value from the B, from 2015. If not, then I want it to be the error. So there we go right there. If and B2 greater than or equal to 7, and C2 is less, I said less than, so maybe we need that to be, actually we need them both to be less than, so that was a good check here. We need them both to be less than. C2 is less than or equal to 7, then it's going to return the 2015 value. If not, it will return an error. So let's push enter there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for 2025. So equal if and open parenthesis. If 2025 is less than or equal to 7 and 2015 is less than or equal to 7, then we're going to return the 2025 value. If not, it'll be an error. All right. There we go. You can pause it and look at the formula and put it in on your end. 2 errors right there. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to copy this formula down, and this is exactly what we want. We wanted numbers to show up here in our blue in those last 2 countries for Germany and South Korea. So now what we need to do is we need to add these series to this series to the chart. So let's go ahead and let's see. I'm going to select data. So our select data source window opens. Add the series blue, X values, Y values, always pulling from our EY value column there. And we'll do another series, add blue 2025, X values there, Y values from E, beautiful, excellent, that's great. Now I'm going to click OK, and we'll see what happens. Again, I see nothing on the chart, but that's because all of our markers are set to no marker. Let's go back to that plot area options here, and you can see this 2015 and 2025 for my blue arrows. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the 2015 because that's where we need to add our error bars. So since those 2015 those markers are selected right here, I'm going to push the skittle, and we're going to get those error bars back. We don't need the Y error bars, so I'll delete those. And I'm going to go ahead and select the X error bars from 2015. Let's go ahead and format those to plus and no cap and custom. And then I'm going to specify the values, and we're going to pull from that blue difference column right here. So we're going to go ahead, the positive error bars, we're going to pull from here. Oh, and actually I can see that I haven't calculated the difference yet. So I'm going to just go ahead and point ourselves to those. I'm going to click OK. And with that Excel window open, let's go ahead and calculate these differences here. Equals K minus J. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag that down. There you can see my change values right there pop up. Let's go ahead and close out of this, and now you can see my blue error bars have come about right there. So let's go ahead and just format those with them highlighted. I'm going to go make them blue 4-point width, just like the other ones. And I'm going to make sure that my begin arrow is the oval and my end arrow is the arrow. Now we have a really nice looking arrow chart right here. There's still a whole bunch more that we have to do to this chart. So if you are exhausted, just push pause and come back to this later. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the 7-point threshold to our chart, and that is going to involve adding a few more series of data to our chart here. So what I want to actually first do is I'm going to open the data source in Excel so that I can add some of this stuff along the way. So we're gonna open the data in Excel. And since we're adding these, since we're telling Excel where to point in this, or since we're telling PowerPoint where to point in this little Excel pop-up, it doesn't really matter where we put them. We're always going to point manually to them. So right here, I'm just going to say this is going to be called our 7-point marker. And I know that my X value is going to be 7, and my Y value, I'm just going to say 7. I'm going to call this 7-point Y, just so we know. My Y value is going to be 10.3. It's going to be the very top value, the very top of my Y axis value in that chart there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to close out of this now, and we're going to select data to add a new series. I'm going to say add. My series name is going to be the marker. X value is 7. Push enter. Y value is 10.3. And I'm going to say OK. And OK again. And let's go ahead and find out where that is. 7-point marker. You can see it's right there at the tippy top. And what we're going to do is I'm going to add an error bar. So add an error bar here. And this time we actually do want the vertical, the Y error bar. I'm going to click on percentage instead of custom there. So let's actually click on that. We don't need the X. I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to click on that error bar so that we can go ahead and format this error bar like this. So we're going to say minus for the direction. Oops, let me get that back. No cap, and then under percentage, I'm going to say 100, and that's going to make the error bar span the entire 100% of the way down the length of the chart. So click on there, and you can see that it goes all the way to the bottom of the chart. And then under the formatting, let's just go ahead and make it kind of a gray color. I don't know, it's pretty dark, so I'll do this dark, and then I can click on the dash type. I can make it a dashed line like that. I can make it even more dashed like that. And then maybe we'll just update this to 4 points as well. Oh, that's too much. Maybe 2 points. I think that looks pretty good. So I think that's like a pretty good a way to do things. If you wanted to add a data label here, you could add this data label and it automatically picks the Y value, but you might need to update this from Y to X. So go ahead and click on that X value there. And then if you were to say above, I could probably just work the plot area just a little bit here, and you would see that threshold value there, which is pretty cool. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to make a custom axis here. I'm going to get rid of this, a custom axis, because you can see that on the example chart, we have our axis at the top, our x-axis at the top of the chart, not at the bottom. So we need to do that. And you can see this 7-point right here is perfectly aligned with that x-axis. And there's not really a way that I can do that in Excel unless I create a custom axis, because you can see right now, otherwise it's increments of 5 points. Those are the units on the axis. And I can't add or manually add a 7 in the middle of that. So we could create a custom axis to our chart. So I think that's what we're going to do next. So first of all, I want to get that x-axis to the top. So what we need to do is keep the y-axis there activated. And I'm going to go over to the Format Axis menu here. Over here under Options, Axis Options, you're going to go down to Horizontal Axis crosses that, say maximum value, and that puts it back on the top of the chart. And let's go ahead and just make the font here. I'm going to make the font here pretty dark, and let's up it to at least 14 points there so that we can see that. I'll go ahead and just make it bold as well. Okay, so that's there just so that we can see it. We're actually going to remove it in a second because we need to create a custom one. So what we're going to do with our custom axis here is I'm going to basically, all the way from 0 to 25, we're going to open this in Excel and create our custom axis. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm just going to say my custom axis will be right here. Oops. I actually don't want to add anything. So I just want to make sure that my Excel window is popped up, but it's not telling me that I need to point to anything. So let's go ahead and just say axis. And this is going to be all the way, let's see, my last value, my minimum value is 0, my maximum is 25. So I'm going to go ahead and just do 0, 1, 2, and then do this all the way down to 25. So let's see how many, what this gives me, 23, 24, 25. And then, so that's the actual values of my axis. This is where I'm going to have them point. This is the actual axis values. I'm going to call this chart axis. And here I want 0, 5. So this is going to be in increments of 5, but then I'm also going to add that 7 there. So then 10, and then 15, 20, and then 25. And now I need a set of y values here. So that's going to be axis y values. And I think this is just going to all be 0. Or no, actually, this is all going to be 10.3. Let's do 10.3 because that's going to be the top of my chart. So we'll do 10.3 there. I'm going to copy those all the way down, double click there. Okay, so I've created my little data table here for my custom axis. Now we just need to add this to the chart. So I'm going to close out of this. We're going to say select data. I'm going to add a series. And we're going to add my custom axis here. I'm going to call the name the chart axis. My x values, I'm going to go here like this. My y values, I'm going to point to the 10.3 and click OK. Click OK again. And let's see what we've created. If I go here down to chart axis, you can see that I have one, let's see, one of these is, one of the dot markers is set, but let me see if I say add data labels. Perfect, it adds data labels to all of those, to each of the points that I wanted on my line. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of my x-axis right there. So just get rid of that, delete it. And then on these markers, I'm gonna say, let's put them above. So let's, under label position, let's do above. Let's also just make these bold, dark, 14 points. And now instead of the y value across the 10.3, we want them to show our x value. So I'm going to say, get rid of y value and add x value there. And now look at that. I have a really cool custom axis. It's a custom axis to my chart. That looks really, really nice. Okay, we're getting pretty close. Let's go back and look. What else do we need to do? So there's a couple things here. We have sort of the titling, the labeling up here. I'm honestly probably just going to use text boxes for those. That's going to be the easiest thing. We could also do a little legend right here. I could either add that manually or we could embed it. Let's go ahead and just embed it. It looks like it's kind of above 15, 2015 values above 15 and slightly below 20. So let's go ahead and try to sort of add that in. I'm going to go ahead and edit the data in Excel. Let's go over here. This is going to be my legend. Legend X, I think that was like 16. And then my legend, oh, that's actually legend 2015 value. And legend 2025 value, I think was like a little bit below 20 maybe. So we'll just do that. And then we have our Y value. It looks like our Y, it's going to be right here on the second part. So it's probably going to be at 2. So let's go ahead and make this a value of 2 there for my Y value. Oops, and I'm actually going to move this over because we need a difference for the legend. Legend diff equals O minus N. There's my difference for my legend. That's going to be that error there. So, or that arrow. So what we'll do, I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to say select data. We will add another series of data. Once you learn how to add series of data, then to your charts like this, it becomes pretty easy. So my X value is there. My Y value is going to be 2. Oops. And that was our legend 15. And now we need to add a legend 25. X value y value, oops, y value there, right? Oh no, y value is the 2, yeah. And then click OK. And we'll get rid of this. I'm going to go down to my 2015 label right here. Let's go ahead and add a error bar. So we're going to add the error bar. And let's get down to my Y error bar I don't need, so I'm going to delete that. My X error bar for my legend, I'm going to say plus, no cap, custom, and then we're going to go ahead and point to that difference value. Perfect. Enter. Close out of it, and now you can see my error bar right there. Let's go ahead and say begin arrow with an oval, end arrow with the arrow. Let's make this 4 points, and let's go ahead and actually, when I click in the chart, we can add the labels there too. We can add actually the legend label. So what we'll do is go back to our 2015 dot right there. I'm going to right click on that. That's highlighted. Say add data label. I'm going to put the position to the left, and then we're going to make that be the X value. Or actually, I'm just going to make that be the series name, and we're going to update the series name in just a second. So let's go ahead and make this bold, 24, or it's 14 point, and maybe just this sort of gray color right there. I'm going to fill it with white so you don't see the background there. And like the same thing we need to do with our 2025. So add label. From the position, uncheck the Y, go value from cells. We'll open that up, and then we'll point it to our 2025, or we'll point it to our difference value there. Oh, actually, wait, what am I doing? I got confused. I confused myself. I'm going to close out of this. Forget that last part. So then we're just going to we're going to click on that value, add the data label there, and we just want to make this the series name. Uncheck Y, do the same formatting, make it a white background. Oops, white background, 14 points. Now it's just Legend 15 and Legend 25. Those are just pulling from the tops, the headers of that table that the series that I've added. So if I go ahead and just right click, edit data, this data window will pop up. I can actually just go ahead and update the names of this table right here to 2015 and 2025, and you can see right down here it updates in my chart. So pretty nice. Okay, there's one more thing that we have to care about here, and it is the country labels. So how do we add the country labels to the chart? It's just going to be another adding of a series to this chart. So right here, let's go ahead and open our data in Excel, and we'll just add my labels. I'm just going to do this over here. This is going to be my country labels. And it's going to be all the way down this way here. We need, let's see, it's just going to be 10 values of 0 because we have 10 countries to label. So 1, 2, see, all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's gonna be my country labels for the X values, and then for the Y values, we'll just point to those Y values right there too. So let's go ahead and close out of this. Select data. We're gonna add a series. Oops. I'm gonna add a series here. My series name is going to be country labels. My X values are going to be zeros. My Y values are going to pull from our same Y value column in E right here. Beautiful. Enter. Okay. And I'm going to close out of this. I don't see them, but I bet I will if I go to my plot area. We'll look at all the different elements that we have in this chart. Country labels, you can see the markers were activated, so I'm going to go ahead and say add labels. I'm going to click on those labels under the format data label options here. We're going to get rid of the Y values, and I'm going to say value from cells. The Excel pop-up will show up there, and I'm going to point to my country column, my column A of data, and you can see it asks the data range right there. We'll click OK out of it, and now you can see my countries have appeared right there. Super nice. I'm going to get rid of this Y-axis. We don't need it. I'm going to move the position of these labels to left. So they're right there, and then click inside of the plot area to just move that so that you can edit it so that they show up really nicely right there. Let's go ahead and make them pretty big, 14 points, this nice dark, the same kind of dark color that we were working with. Ah, that looks really, really good. Let's go ahead and just copy this chart and paste it right next to it, next to our example, so that we can see what this looks like here. I'm going to go ahead and just put that right in there. I think that looks really, really nice. Now there's a few things. Let's see if there's a few things that we can do to make this even better. Let's see. All right, so if I wanted, I need those labels here, the affordable and unaffordable. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that brute force. We're gonna add a text box here, and I'm just gonna do affordable. And then I think you can actually you can add a little custom symbol here. There is an arrow if you, let's see, if we scroll down, I wonder if it's in like Wingdings or Webdings. If we go all the way down here under Arial, doesn't look like I have a set of arrows. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Let's just try like Webdings and see what happens. Oops. Webdings symbol. I don't know. There's lots of different arrows that you can use. And let's see if I like this one. Like I like that one, but then I don't see one to the other side. Let's just do this little section of arrows right here. Actually, I'll do these little circle with carrots. I kind of like those. So let's insert that. And you can see that's been inserted there. And so I'm going to call that affordable. And so we're going to say blue. We're going to do that same blue color. And then let's Control D to duplicate that. And then we're going to say unaffordable. And let's go ahead and put in that other symbol. So insert symbol, and then this caret right there, insert. Looks like it did that. We'll make sure the text box is nice and big. And this one was our red. So I'm going to go back and format this. Oops, format this to red, the red color. Super nice. Just make sure that these are aligned perfectly to the middle. And then we'll just add them right there to the top of our chart. I am loving that. Now there is one little thing that you can see here. Now look at the beautiful custom axis that we have. It's perfectly aligned. Look at the very bottom of this chart. You can still kind of see there's kind of like this like cut point right here. I'm not going to be able to do that because my y-axis goes to 0. And so we're going to always have this line right here. But here's a little design trick. If this was a static chart, I would just put a box over top. And let's just call that box white. Color that box white. No line, and you can kind of just move it to how you want to do, but nobody would ever know that, you know, there was a white box over this if the chart was sort of more static or it was an image that you wanted to paste into a report. I think that actually looks kind of cool. There is one more trick that I see right here. The country labels are actually left aligned. They're not right aligned. I think the right alignment looks just fine for this chart, but if we wanted to make them left aligned and it needed to be a kind of a more of a static chart, I'm going to go ahead and use a trick that I learned from my friend Nolan Hames. We're just going to cut this chart out. We're going to paste it back in as an SVG, and then I'm going to unbreak it, and I'm going to keep all of the text box labels there, and I'm going to align them to the left. So actually, I'm just going to duplicate this slide just so that we have our original right there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut, Control X to cut. We're going to go to Paste Special, Paste as SVG. Now you can see it pasted the entire chart right here as the SVG. And now I'm going to do Shift-Control-G to ungroup. You're going to say yes. And then do it again, Shift-Control-G. It ungroups everything. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag, kind of lasso all of the text boxes there. I'm going to align them to the left and make sure that they're left aligned. And that actually looks really, really good. Now the chart got a little bit wonky, but this is where actually, because everything turned into a shape, we can actually get rid of this. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this back, paste it back there. right on top of it, and I'm going to get rid of my labels. Oops, let's see. Oops, let's see. Is this my chart? Oh yeah, this is still my chart. Rewind. Okay. So I have my labels right there, but I'm going to go ahead and for my chart, what we can actually do is I'll just actually, I'm going to group these labels, Control G to group. I'm going to copy that and I'm just going to paste that over my chart once I remove my data labels here. I'm going to push backspace to remove those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control V to paste. And you can see it pastes right on top of that. So there was a quicker way that I could have probably just done that. And instead of cutting the chart, I could have copied it and put it back here. But now look at this chart. It looks really nice. And it looks a lot like the original example from The Economist. So this was a super long video. Again, I'm going to try to go ahead and timestamp some of the different things that I did, but it was a pretty fun exercise just to see how we might recreate a chart that we saw in the wild that looks really, really slick and has a lot of unique features to it. So I hope that you'll be able to go through this video, go check out the blog post that I'm linking below on the same topic. And if you like these videos, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And I try to post videos about data design, usually PowerPoint, Excel, Word, all the time. Have a great time making them for you, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Keep the comments coming below and let me know if you made it through this entire video. Have a great day.